An elderly woman stood freezing outside a Chicago subway station, her wallet stolen and phone dead. Everyone she begged for help dismissed her as a scammer. Just as she was losing hope, a black maintenance worker and his daughter approached. Their coats were worn and their pockets nearly empty, yet they still chose to trust her and help. He bought her a hot dinner and gave her his last $23 so she could buy a train ticket home. What he didn't know was that the woman he helped was the mother of a billionaire. And when she finally found him, his entire future would be changed forever. Before we go back, let me know where you're watching from, and subscribe because tomorrow's chapter is going to break your heart in the best way. The December snowstorm descended on Chicago like a white curtain, transforming the evening commute into chaos. What had begun as innocent flurries that morning had evolved into a blinding whiteout by 6 o'clock, with wind gusts that cut through even the thickest winter coats. Eleanor Grant stood at the entrance to the Roosevelt Street station, her thin wool coat offering little protection against the bitter cold. At 67 years old, she'd weathered many Chicago winters, but tonight felt particularly brutal. Her hands, stiff with arthritis, clutched a faded cloth handbag that no longer contained the one thing she desperately needed, her wallet. "Please, I need help." She approached a businessman in an expensive overcoat. "My wallet was stolen. I need money for a train ticket to reach my daughter, just enough for fare." The man barely slowed. "Try the shelter on Madison," he called over his shoulder, already hurrying away. Eleanor's chest tightened. She wasn't homeless. She had a daughter with a beautiful home waiting for her. She just needed to get there. She tried again. A young couple, stylishly dressed, clearly on their way to dinner somewhere warm. "Excuse me, could you possibly spare?" "That's the oldest scam in the book," the woman said, pulling her companion away. "Don't make eye contact, just keep walking." "But I'm not scamming anyone," Eleanor protested, her voice shaking. "I have my daughter's address right here. I just need train fare." They were already gone. Eleanor blinked back tears. She'd taken the bus downtown that morning to do Christmas shopping, planning to surprise her daughter Rachel a day early. Her phone had died hours ago. She'd set her purse down for just one moment in a crowded cafe, and when she turned back, her wallet was gone. Credit cards, cash, Idaho, everything. She must look exactly like what that woman had accused her of being, a con artist. Her coat was old, visibly mended at the seams. Her shoes had seen better winters. Her gray hair, usually neat in its bun, had come loose in the wind and hung in damp strands around her face. She tried 3 more people. Each one refused, their expressions ranging from suspicion to disgust to carefully cultivated indifference. "Daddy, why is that grandma crying?" Eleanor turned at the small voice. A little girl stood a few feet away, no more than 7 years old, with dark brown skin and bright, curious eyes. She wore a purple winter coat that was clean but clearly hand-me-down, patches carefully sewn at the elbows. Beside her stood a tall black man in his late 30s, wearing a maintenance worker's jacket with Midwest Building Services embroidered on the chest. His work boots were caked with salt and snow. "Jasmine, we don't point at people," the man said gently, but his eyes had already found Eleanor. Unlike everyone else, he didn't look away. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Eleanor wanted to lie, to preserve some shred of dignity, but the genuine concern in his voice broke through her defenses. "I've been robbed, my wallet is gone, and I can't buy a train ticket to my daughter's home in Lincoln Park. I've asked several people for help, but..." She couldn't finish the sentence. The man studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful rather than judgmental.
"I believe you."
Those 3 words nearly undid her. "You do?" "Yes, ma'am. I've been in tough spots myself. I recognize that particular kind of desperation." He glanced at his daughter, then back to Eleanor. "When's the last time you ate?" Eleanor tried to remember. A quick breakfast at dawn, too excited about surprising Rachel to eat much. "This morning." The man pulled out his wallet, and Eleanor could see it was nearly empty. A few crumpled bills, some loose change. He counted quietly, lips moving. Then he looked up with a small smile. "There's a diner called Murphy's 3 blocks from here. Good hot food, reasonable prices. I'd like to buy you dinner, get you warmed up before you travel." "Oh, I couldn't possibly, please." His voice was kind but firm. "My name is James. James Cooper. This is my daughter Jasmine." and it would be an honor to help you.
Jasmine nodded enthusiastically.
Her pigtails bouncing.
Daddy says we should
Always help people when they need it. Are you somebody's grandma? Despite everything, Eleanor felt herself smile. I am. My daughter Rachel has 2 children. Michael is 10, and Sophie is 7, about your age. Does Sophie like astronauts? Jasmine asked as James gently guided them toward the diner. Because I'm going to be the first astronaut to walk on Mars. That's a wonderful dream, sweetheart. Murphy's diner was a beacon of warmth and light in the storm. James held the door for Eleanor, and she nearly wept at the rush of heated air. He led them to a booth near the radiator, and insisted she sit in the warmest spot. Eleanor watched as James studied the menu, his eyes lingering on the prices. She could see him calculating, deciding what he could afford. Please, just soup is fine, she called across the table. Nonsense. James signaled the waitress. The lady will have the roast turkey dinner with all the fixings. My daughter and I will split the grilled cheese platter. James, that's too much. You need real food, ma'am. You've been out in that cold for hours. His tone left no room for argument. As they waited for their meals, Eleanor learned their story in fragments. James was a maintenance supervisor at a large commercial building downtown. He'd been widowed when Jasmine was just 11 months old, raising her alone ever since. They lived in a small apartment in Pilsen, a neighborhood Eleanor knew wasn't the safest. It's home though, James said with quiet pride. Jasmine has friends there. The rent is what I can manage. We're doing all right, but Eleanor saw the truth in the details. The worn patches on Jasmine's coat, despite being clean and carefully maintained. The way James stretched his coffee to make it last. The fact that they were splitting one meal while he ordered her the most expensive item on the menu. This was a man who had very little, giving what he could spare. When the food arrived, Eleanor ate slowly, savoring every bite. She hadn't realized how hungry she'd been, how cold. Across from her, Jasmine chattered about school, about space, about her dreams of touching the stars. Daddy's teaching me about rockets, she said proudly. He knows all about how things work. Your daddy sounds very smart. He is. He went to college and everything. He's going to finish his degree soon and then he'll be an engineer. James's expression tightened slightly. Someday, baby girl. When the time is right. Eleanor heard the weight in those words, the dreams deferred. When the meal was finished and the plates cleared, James pulled out his remaining cash. Eleanor saw him count it carefully, $23. He pressed it all into her hand. This should cover your train fare, and then some. It's all I have until payday on Friday, but you need it more than we do. James, no. Eleanor tried to push the money back. You've already bought me dinner. I can't take the last of your money. What about Jasmine? What about Jasmine? What about ma'am? James closed her fingers around the bills, his calloused hands warm despite the cold. Jasmine and I will be fine. We've got food at home. Our train pass is paid through the month. But you need to reach your daughter safely. His eyes met hers steadily. Please let me do this. Why? Eleanor's voice broke. Why are you being so kind to a complete stranger? James glanced at Jasmine, who was watching with solemn understanding eyes far beyond her years. Because someone helped me once when I had nothing. After Jasmine's mama passed and the medical bills took everything, a stranger paid for our groceries at the store. Didn't ask for anything back, just said to help someone else someday when I could. He smiled, and it transformed his tired face. Today's that day. Eleanor felt tears spill over. I want to repay you. Please let me have your phone number, your address. When I reach Rachel, I'll send this money back with interest. No need for that. James shook his head firmly. I didn't help you to get paid back. I helped because it was the right thing to do. You just do the same for someone else when you're able. That's payment enough. Jasmine tugged on her father's sleeve. Daddy, can we walk the grandma lady to the train? It's still snowing really hard. If she'd like the company. They walked through the storm together, James steadying Eleanor when the sidewalk got slippery, Jasmine chattering about her school's upcoming science fair. At the platform, Eleanor hugged them both, this man and his beautiful daughter who'd stopped when no one else would. I won't forget this, she whispered to James, I promise you I won't forget your kindness. Safe travels, ma'am. I hope you have a wonderful visit with your daughter." Eleanor watched them disappear back into the swirling snow, a tall man and a small girl heading into the storm with empty pockets but full hearts. She clutched the $23 like the sacred gift it was and boarded the train. She didn't know James's address, didn't know how to find him again in a city of 3 million souls, but she knew his face, his kindness, the gentle way he treated her with dignity when everyone else had looked through her like she was invisible. And Eleanor Grant, mother of Rachel Morrison, CEO of Morrison Technologies, never forgot a face, or a debt of grace. Rachel Morrison's townhouse in Lincoln Park was everything her mother had raised her to be cautious about: expensive, impressive, designed to showcase success rather than provide warmth. But when Rachel opened the door and saw her mother standing there soaked and shivering, none of that mattered. "Mom, you're here early." Rachel pulled her into a fierce embrace. "I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow. Why are you drenched? Where's your suitcase? And your coat is Mom, what happened?" Over chamomile tea and wrapped in a soft blanket, Eleanor told the story. She watched her daughter's face shift from concern to fury to something softer, more thoughtful, as the tale unfolded. "A maintenance worker gave you his last $23. Rachel's voice was quiet, controlled in that way that meant she was feeling everything intensely, "and bought me dinner first. Rachel, this man had so little, his daughter wore a patched coat. They split one meal while he ordered me the most expensive thing on the menu." Eleanor's eyes filled again. People like that still exist in this world. Rachel stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, the snow had finally stopped, leaving the city wrapped in pristine white. What was his name? James Cooper. He works maintenance at some building downtown. He was wearing a uniform that said Midwest Building Services. James Cooper. Rachel pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. "Midwest Building Services. That's one of our contractors, Mom. They handle maintenance for several buildings in the Loop, including ours." Eleanor sat up straighter. "You use that company?" "We do. For 3 of our properties." Rachel's mind was already racing. "Mom, I need to find this man. People like him, they deserve to be recognized, to be thanked properly. He wouldn't tell me how to repay him. He said he helped because it was right, not to get anything back. Then we'll respect that." Rachel sat back down beside her mother. "But we'll find him. And when we do, we'll figure out how to help in a way that honors his dignity. I promise you, Mom." For the next several days, Eleanor stayed with Rachel, enjoying time with her grandchildren and recovering from her ordeal. But the story of James Cooper occupied Rachel's thoughts constantly. She'd built Morrison Technologies from nothing, had fought her way to the top of the tech industry through brilliance and relentless determination. She employed over 600 people, had wealth most people couldn't comprehend, wielded power that could change lives with a signature. And yet a maintenance worker with empty pockets had shown more genuine generosity than anyone in her carefully curated world. It haunted her in the best possible way. Rachel made discreet inquiries through her facilities director. Midwest Building Services had 17 employees named James or J. Cooper in their Chicago division, but only one matched her mother's description. James Nathaniel Cooper, age 38, maintenance supervisor assigned primarily to the Morrison Tower on Wacker Drive, her building. He worked in her building. "Mom," Rachel said carefully one morning over breakfast, "I found him. He's been working in Morrison Tower for the past 8 months. Eleanor's hand trembled around her coffee cup. "He's been there all along. Apparently. I've been in that building 5 days a week and never noticed him." Rachel felt the weight of that admission. "I need you to do something for me. Come to the office tomorrow. I want you to confirm it's the same man before I do anything." "And then what?" And then Rachel paused, thinking. "And then I figure out how to thank him without making him feel like charity, without making him feel small for doing something big." The next morning, Rachel led her mother through Morrison Tower's gleaming lobby. They rode the elevator to the 10th floor, where Rachel had scheduled a facilities inspection meeting. "Just observe," Rachel whispered as they entered the conference room. "Don't say anything yet. The room held several people: Rachel's facilities director, 2 building engineers, and 3 maintenance supervisors. One of them was a tall black man in navy work coveralls, reviewing a clipboard. Eleanor's breath caught. She gripped Rachel's arm tightly. Rachel looked at her mother's face and knew. That was him. She studied James Cooper as the meeting progressed. He spoke confidently about building systems, proposed efficiency improvements, answered questions with the ease of someone who genuinely understood his work. There was a quiet competence about him. A dignity that had nothing to do with his position and everything to do with character. This was the man who'd given everything to help a stranger. After the meeting, Rachel pulled her facilities director aside. "I need James Cooper's personnel file. Quietly. And I need it complete, not just the summary version. Is there a problem with his work?" "No. The opposite. I'm considering him for advancement. I want to know everything about his background and performance." By late afternoon, Rachel sat alone in her office with James Cooper's file spread across her desk. She read slowly, absorbing every detail. James Nathaniel Cooper, age 38, current residence, Pilsen neighborhood, West 21st Street. Hired 8 months ago as maintenance supervisor. Previously employed by 3 other building management companies over the past 7 years. Performance reviews, consistently excellent. Skills: electrical systems, HVAC, general maintenance. Certifications, current and up-to-date. Education: 3 years completed at Illinois Institute of Technology, Mechanical Engineering Program, full academic scholarship. Status withdrawn. Year: 8 years ago. Rachel did the math, right when his wife died. She kept reading. Emergency contact: Jasmine Marie Cooper, daughter age 7. Mother deceased, no other family listed. Personal notes from hiring interview. Seeking stable position with consistent schedule, needs flexibility for single-parent responsibilities. Previous positions ended due to company closures or schedule conflicts with childcare, not performance issues. Highly motivated. Would be asset to team. Current salary, $42,000 annually. Benefits: basic health insurance, no dental, no vision. Rachel sat back, a complex emotion settling in her chest. This was a brilliant man. Scholarship to IIT meant he'd been exceptional, who'd been forced to leave school when his wife died. Who'd been working maintenance jobs for nearly a decade, never staying anywhere long enough to advance because he needed flexibility to raise his daughter alone. Who'd given his last $23 to her mother without hesitation. She couldn't just write a check. That would be insulting, reductive. But she also couldn't ignore what she'd learned. This man deserved more than he had. Not because of what he'd done for her mother, but because of who he was. Talented, hard-working, principled. Rachel pulled out a legal pad and began making notes. Not plans yet, just thoughts. Possibilities. She needed to be strategic about this, thoughtful. One wrong move, and she could make James feel like a charity case rather than a valued professional. Over the next 2 weeks, Rachel did something she'd never done before. She paid attention to the maintenance staff. She started noticing the people who kept her building running, who most executives looked through like they were invisible. She noticed James arriving every morning at 7, Jasmine's hand in his, dropping her at the building's child care center before starting his shift. The child care center Rachel had insisted on including when she designed Morrison Tower, so employees wouldn't have to choose between good care and affordable care. She saw him eat lunch alone in the maintenance office, usually just a sandwich from home, while studying something on his phone. She learned from other staff that he was taking online engineering courses during his breaks, trying to finish the degree he'd started a decade ago. She watched him interact with other workers. He was patient with the new hires, respectful to the cleaning staff, quick to help anyone who asked. He never cut corners, never complained, never acted like any task was beneath him. And she saw the exhaustion. The way his shoulders sagged at day's end. The careful way he counted change when buying coffee from the lobby cafe. The fact that he wore the same 3 work uniforms in rotation, all carefully maintained but showing their age. This was a good man working himself to exhaustion to provide for his daughter, to better himself, to maintain his dignity in a system designed to keep people like him in place. Rachel thought about her mother standing in that snowstorm, dismissed by everyone as a scam artist. About James stopping when he had every reason to protect his limited resources. About Jasmine's patched coat, and James's empty wallet. She couldn't just throw money at this. She had to do something that mattered, something that honored his worth rather than highlighted his need. But what? Rachel Morrison hadn't become a successful CEO by being impulsive. She'd learned patience, strategy, the value of thorough preparation before making decisions, so she watched. And she learned. And she planned carefully. She learned that James picked up additional weekend shifts at a warehouse in Bridgeport to supplement his income. That he taught himself guitar from YouTube videos because Jasmine wanted music lessons he couldn't afford. That he volunteered one Sunday per month at the Pilsen Community Center, teaching basic electrical skills to unemployed adults trying to learn a trade. She learned from Jasmine's childcare teacher that James never missed a parent conference, that he read to Jasmine every night, that his daughter was performing above grade level despite attending an underfunded school. Mr. Cooper is one of the special ones, the teacher told Rachel during a casual conversation. Some parents drop their kids and disappear. James checks in every morning and evening, he's fully present. Rachel began creating subtle opportunities to observe James professionally. She scheduled building inspections at times she knew he'd be present. She attended facilities meetings she'd normally have delegated. She listened to his suggestions about energy efficiency, about safety improvements, about better maintenance protocols. He was brilliant. Not just competent, but genuinely innovative. His ideas were practical, cost-effective, and showed a depth of understanding that went far beyond his job description. One afternoon, Rachel was reviewing maintenance reports when she noticed something. James had identified a pattern of electrical issues across 3 floors that everyone else had treated as isolated incidents. His report proposed a comprehensive solution that would prevent future problems and save money long-term. "This is excellent work," she told her facilities director. "Why hasn't anyone implemented his recommendation?" The director shrugged. "It's good, but he's just a maintenance supervisor. We usually wait for the engineering consultants to propose major changes." Even when the maintenance supervisor has 3 years of engineering education from IIT, the director looked surprised. "I didn't know that. Maybe we should start paying more attention to the expertise we already have in-house." Rachel kept her tone mild, but the message was clear. She began leaving small improvements in James's path, carefully disguised as normal business operations. When the maintenance office complained about outdated diagnostic equipment, Rachel approved the purchase of new tools, saying simply that good equipment paid for itself in efficiency. When Jasmine's child care center requested funding for educational materials, Rachel donated anonymously through the building's employee fund. Nothing that pointed directly to James, nothing that would make him feel singled out. Just general improvements that happened to make his life slightly easier. But she wanted to do more, needed to do more. The question was how to do it right. The answer came unexpectedly during a routine executive meeting. "We're expanding operations to the new Riverside complex," her COO announced. "We'll need to hire a facilities manager for the site. Someone who can oversee construction compliance, set up maintenance protocols, manage the contractor relationships." Rachel's mind sparked. What are the requirements for that position? Maintenance experience obviously, knowledge of building systems, management skills. "We're planning to hire from outside, probably someone with a facilities management degree." "What about internal candidates?" The COO looked skeptical. "We don't really have anyone at that level, don't we?" Rachel pulled up James's file on her tablet. "James Cooper, 8 months with us, excellent performance reviews. Previous experience managing teams, 3 years of engineering education. By all accounts, he's already operating above his current position. Why not give him the opportunity? He's only been here 8 months, and in those 8 months, he's identified cost savings, improved safety protocols, and mentored junior staff. His supervisor's reports are glowing. Rachel met her COO's eyes steadily. I'm not saying hand him the job, I'm saying give him the chance to interview for it. If he's not qualified, we'll know. But if he is, we'll have promoted from within, which is always preferable to external hires. After a moment, the COO nodded. Fair enough. We'll post it internally first, per policy. If he applies, he gets a fair interview. Rachel smiled, satisfied. This was the right approach, an open position, fair competition, no special favors. If James wanted it, he'd have to earn it, but at least now he'd have the chance. The position was posted on Friday. Rachel waited, wondering if James would even see it, if he'd dare to apply. Monday morning, her assistant informed her that James Cooper had submitted an application for the Riverside Facilities Manager position. Rachel felt something warm bloom in her chest. He was going for it. Taking the chance. Now came the hard part, ensuring the interview process was genuinely fair while simultaneously hoping desperately that he'd succeed. James Cooper stood outside Rachel Morrison's office, his heart hammering against his ribs. He wore his only dress shirt, pressed carefully the night before, paired with slacks that were slightly too worn but the best he had. His hands were clammy despite the building's efficient climate control. He debated for 2 days before applying for the facilities manager position. The salary was nearly double what he currently made. The role came with real benefits, education assistance, and actual business hours, no more weekend warehouse shifts, more time with Jasmine. But the requirements had seemed impossibly high. He'd never managed a full facility. He hadn't finished his degree. Who was he to think he could compete with candidates who had everything he lacked? Still, something had made him apply. Maybe it was the memory of his younger self, the scholarship student at IIT who dreamed of designing systems that mattered. Maybe it was Jasmine asking why he couldn't coach her weekend soccer team like other dads. Maybe it was just the tiny stubborn hope that he could be more than circumstances had forced him to become. Mr. Cooper. Miss Morrison will see you now. James took a deep breath and entered. Rachel Morrison sat behind her massive desk, and for the first time James really looked at her. He'd seen her in passing, of course, during building inspections and occasional elevator rides, but he'd never been in her office, never had her full attention. She was probably in her early 40s, with sharp features and dark hair pulled back in a professional twist. Her gray suit was impeccably tailored. Everything about her screamed power, from her posture to the way she gestured to the chair across from her. Please sit. Thank you for applying, Mr. Cooper. Thank you for considering me, ma'am. I know my qualifications might not be exactly. Tell me about your time at IIT. The question caught him off guard. James explained his scholarship, the classes he'd loved, the projects where he'd excelled. His voice grew stronger as he talked about sustainable design, integrated building systems, the dream of creating structures that gave more than they took. Why did you leave? Rachel asked, though something in her tone suggested she already knew. My wife died unexpectedly. Complications from an infection that went septic 3 weeks after our daughter was born. I had a newborn baby, medical bills that exceeded what insurance covered, no family nearby to help. I had to work, and I couldn't do both. He met her eyes directly. I don't regret it. Jasmine needed me, but I won't lie and say I don't think about what might have been. Rachel nodded slowly. What if you could finish? The position comes with full education assistance. You could complete your degree while working. James stared. That's incredibly generous. It's good business. We invest in valuable employees. Rachel pulled up his file on her computer. Your performance reviews are exceptional, James. You're reliable, skilled, innovative. Your supervisor says you're already operating at a level above your title. You've identified cost savings, improved safety protocols, and mentored 3 new hires in the past 6 months. She paused. You're exactly what this position needs. Someone who understands the work from the ground up, who values excellence over shortcuts. Miss Morrison, I'm honored, but surely there are other candidates with formal management degrees. I'm not interested in degrees alone. I'm interested in capability, in judgment, in character. Rachel leaned forward slightly. Let me ask you something. If you noticed a safety hazard that would cost the company money to fix properly but that you could cover up cheaply in a way no one would notice until it became critical, what would you do? James didn't hesitate. I'd report it properly, document it, insist it be fixed right. Because it's not about the money, it's about people's safety. That's non-negotiable. Even if it made you unpopular, even if your supervisor pressured you to just make it go away. Yes, ma'am, every time. Rachel sat back, something like satisfaction crossing her face. That's the right answer, Mr. Cooper, and it tells me more than any degree could. She extended her hand across the desk. The job is yours if you want it. No strings attached. You've earned this through your work and your integrity. What do you say? James took her hand, his voice unsteady. I say yes. Thank you. I promise you won't regret this. I know I won't. Rachel released his hand and pulled out a folder. Here's the position overview, salary details and benefit information. You'd start in 3 weeks, which gives you time to train your replacement and get oriented to the Riverside site. Sound reasonable? James opened the folder and nearly dropped it. The salary was $58,000 more than he'd ever made. Full health, dental and vision insurance. Education assistance up to $20,000 annually. Retirement matching. This wasn't just a promotion, this was a life change. Miss Morrison, I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep being the person you already are. Keep doing excellent work. Keep treating people with respect. That's all I ask. She smiled, and it softened her professional demeanor. Welcome to the management team, James. After he left, Rachel sat alone in her office for a long time. Phase 1 complete. She'd given him an opportunity based on merit, not charity. A genuine position that he'd earned through his work, not as payback for helping her mother. She still hadn't told him about that snowy night. That revelation would come later, when he was secure in his new role, when he couldn't possibly think his job depended on her gratitude. For now, she'd done what she set out to do. Create a fair chance for a deserving person to show what he was capable of when circumstances weren't constantly fighting against him. The rest would unfold in its own time. Over the next 3 weeks, James threw himself into the transition with fierce dedication. He trained his replacement thoroughly, documented every system and protocol, made himself available for questions even after his official last day in the maintenance role. Rachel watched from a distance as he stepped into his new position. She saw his confidence grow as he proved to himself that he belonged there. She saw other managers begin to respect his insights, to seek his input on projects beyond his immediate responsibilities. And she saw the change in Jasmine. The little girl who'd been dropped at childcare at 7 every morning now arrived at 8, after a real breakfast with her father. James picked her up by 5:30 instead of 6:30 or later. They had evenings together now, weekends free of warehouse shifts. Daddy can help with my science project now, Jasmine told anyone who would listen, and he's going to coach my soccer team next season. James enrolled in online courses to finish his engineering degree, studying during lunch breaks and after Jasmine went to bed. Rachel quietly ensured that the company's education assistants processed his paperwork expeditiously, but left no trail that led back to her personal involvement. 3 months into his new position, James submitted a comprehensive plan for the Riverside facility's energy systems. It was brilliant, innovative, cost-effective and environmentally responsible. Rachel read it twice, impressed by both the technical sophistication and the clear communication. She approved it immediately and mentioned it in the next board meeting as an example of the kind of forward thinking they should expect from all departments. James's reputation grew. Other facilities managers started asking for his input. He was invited to present at an industry conference. His name appeared in company newsletters highlighting innovative approaches to sustainable building management. And through it all, Rachel maintained professional distance. They interacted in meetings, communicated via email about project details, exchanged polite greetings in the hallway. Nothing that suggested any personal connection beyond appropriate professional courtesy. But she thought about him often. About his dedication to Jasmine. About his integrity in every decision. About the way he'd stopped in a snowstorm to help a stranger, giving everything he had because it was right. Her mother visited regularly, always asking about that wonderful young man who helped me. Eleanor would glimpse James occasionally in the building, and Rachel would see her mother's eyes soften with recognition and gratitude. When are you going to tell him? Eleanor asked one evening over dinner at Rachel's townhouse. Soon Rachel promised. I want him fully settled first. Secure in his position. Confident that he earned it. I don't want him to feel like his job is connected to some debt of gratitude. This has to be real. You're overthinking it, sweetheart. Maybe, but I need to get this right. The revelation came 4 months after James's promotion, and like these things often do, it happened unexpectedly. It was a Thursday afternoon in late April, the first truly warm day after a long winter. Rachel had scheduled a quarterly facilities review meeting, bringing together all her building managers to discuss efficiency improvements and upcoming projects. James was presenting his latest initiative, a comprehensive sustainability program that could be rolled out across all Morrison properties. He stood at the front of the conference room, confident now in ways he hadn't been 4 months earlier. As the presentation concluded, Rachel's office door opened without warning. Eleanor walked in, arms full of shopping bags, not realizing a meeting was in session. Rachel, darling, I hope you don't mind. I was nearby and thought She stopped, embarrassed, as she noticed the full room. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Before she could finish, James froze. He knew that voice. He turned toward her, and the polished conference room, the managers, the charts, all of it fell away. The last time he'd seen that frail woman, she'd been shivering under the glow of a street lamp in a snowstorm. Mrs. Grant, he said softly, disbelief and recognition flooding his face. Eleanor's eyes warmed. She had recognized him the instant she entered. There was no shock in her, only emotion. James, she whispered, her voice thick. I hoped it was you. I hoped we'd find you again. A ripple of confusion ran through the room as the team looked between them. James's gaze snapped to Rachel, realization slamming into him. Miss Morrison, your mother is. Rachel's careful plans crumbled. James, I can explain. He stepped back, visibly shaken, breath unsteady. I need some air. He set down the presentation remote with trembling fingers and left the room without another word. Rachel turned to her stunned management team. Meeting adjourned. We'll resume next week. Mom, please wait in my office. She found James in the stairwell 3 floors down, sitting on the steps with his head in his hands. She descended slowly, giving him space but making her presence known. How long have you known? He asked without looking up. Since the day after you helped her. My mother came to visit, saw you in the building, recognized you immediately. James's head snapped up. 4 months, 4 months you've known, and you never said anything. The promotion, the salary, the education assistance, all of it was payback. I've been your charity project. No, Rachel's voice was firm. James, please listen to me. Yes, I knew who you were. Yes, I wanted to help you because you helped my mother. But that position was real. It already existed as part of our expansion plans, and I didn't just hand it to you, you competed for it. You earned it. But you're my boss, you have power over my career, my livelihood. How am I supposed to trust that any of this is real? How do I know you won't take it all away the moment I disappoint you? Rachel felt the words like a physical blow. Because I'm not that kind of person, and in 4 months of working together, you should know that by now. James stood abruptly, pacing the small landing. I gave your mother $23 and a turkey dinner. You've given me a career, doubled my salary, a chance to finish my degree, a future for Jasmine. It's not equal. It's not fair. You're absolutely right. It's not equal. Rachel stood too, facing him directly. Because what you gave her was worth infinitely more than money. You gave her dignity when everyone else treated her like a nuisance or a scam artist. You gave her kindness with zero expectation of return. You reminded her, and through her, me what real generosity looks like. Her voice cracked slightly. I can never repay that, James. Not with a job, not with money, not with anything. So I'm not trying to repay it. I'm trying to honor it, by recognizing the person you are, and giving you the opportunities your character and capabilities deserve. James stopped pacing, his shoulders sagging. I don't know how to process this. You don't have to process it all at once. Take your time. But James, please understand, I watched you for weeks before that position even came open. I saw how you worked, how you treated people, how you never cut corners even when no one was watching. I saw you studying during your lunch breaks, dropping Jasmine at childcare with so much love it made my chest ache. I saw you help a new maintenance worker figure out a wiring problem instead of just fixing it yourself. I saw your character. She stepped closer. The promotion wasn't about the snowstorm, it was about who you are every single day. Did you watch me like some kind of project? Was I fascinating to you? The noble poor person struggling so admirably. I watched you because I wanted to make sure anything I did was right for you, not just convenient for me. And what I saw was someone extraordinary who didn't even realize it. Someone I'm honored to know and privileged to work with. James's eyes were bright with unshed tears. My whole life, I've had to fight to be seen as capable, to not be dismissed or underestimated. And now I find out that the biggest opportunity I've ever had came from someone who knew about one kind thing I did, and I can't help but wonder if I earned any of it. You earned all of it. Rachel's voice was fierce now. Ask anyone on my management team. They'll tell you that you've exceeded every expectation, that your work is exceptional, that you've brought ideas and insights we desperately needed. The only thing my mother's story did was make me pay attention long enough to see what was already there, a brilliant, principled, hard-working person who deserved a fair chance. They stood in silence, the stairwell's emergency lighting casting harsh shadows. Finally James spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I need time to think about this, to figure out how I feel. Take all the time you need. Your job isn't contingent on our personal relationship. You earned your position through merit, and that won't change regardless of how you feel about me or my mother. James nodded slowly. Then unexpectedly, he asked, why didn't you tell me sooner? Before I got attached to this job, before I started believing I actually deserved it. Because I needed you to believe you deserved it based on your work, not based on one night in a snowstorm. I needed you to see yourself the way I saw you, as someone capable and brilliant and worthy. Rachel's voice softened, and honestly, I was afraid. Afraid of exactly this reaction. Afraid you'd think it was all fake when it's been real from the beginning. I don't know what's real anymore. Your work is real, your promotion was real. Your talent is real. The only thing that was hidden was my motivation for paying attention in the first place. But what I found when I looked, that was all you, James. That was always you. James rubbed his face, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. I should get back to work. Take the rest of the day, go home to Jasmine. Clear your head. Rachel pulled out her wallet and withdrew several bills. She held them out to James. $23. What you gave my mother. I've been carrying this around since she told me the story, waiting for the right moment to return it. Consider us even. James stared at the money, then looked up at her with something like wonder. You've been carrying this around for 4 months. Every single day. As a reminder of what matters, he took the bills slowly, folding them with careful precision before putting them in his wallet. Okay, we're even on the money. But Miss Morrison, everything else, the opportunity, the faith you had in me, that's not something I can call even. That's something I have to live up to. You already are, James. Every single day. He left and Rachel stood alone in the stairwell, uncertain whether she'd just preserved or destroyed the most important professional relationship she'd built in years. Only time would tell. The weekend stretched endlessly. Rachel resisted every urge to call or text James, knowing he needed space to process. Eleanor, feeling guilty about the accidental revelation, worried constantly. I've ruined everything, she said for the dozenth time Sunday evening. That poor man looked so hurt. You haven't ruined anything, Mom. The truth had to come out eventually. Maybe it's better this way, without all my careful planning. Rachel stared out at the city lights. Now we just have to see if he can forgive me for not telling him sooner. He will. He's a good man and good men understand complicated situations. I hope you're right. Monday morning arrived with heavy clouds threatening rain. Rachel got to the office early, jumping at every sound, wondering if James would show up at all. At 8:15 she saw him on the security cameras, walking into the building with Jasmine. He dropped his daughter at the childcare center, the interaction warm and normal. Then he headed to his office. Rachel gave him space, focusing on her own work though she accomplished almost nothing. Every email notification made her heart race. At 11 o'clock, her assistant knocked. "James Cooper is here to see you. Should I send him in?" Rachel's pulse hammered. "Yes, please." James entered, looking tired but more composed than Friday. He sat without being asked, which she took as a positive sign. "I've been thinking all weekend," he began. "And I've realized something. I've been so focused on my pride, on feeling like I need to do everything myself, that I almost threw away something valuable because it didn't come the way I expected." He leaned forward. "This job, your respect, the chance to prove what I can do, those things matter. And I don't want to lose them because I'm too stubborn to accept that sometimes help comes from unexpected places." "James," he held up a hand. "Please let me finish. I don't know if we can be friends, not with the power dynamic between us. That's real, and I need to acknowledge it. But I'd like to try to be colleagues. Real colleagues, with mutual respect and honest communication. No more secrets." Rachel nodded carefully. "I can agree to that. No more secrets. Then I need to tell you something." James's expression became serious. "I'm struggling. The coursework for finishing my degree is harder than I expected while working full-time. Jasmine's school is requesting supplies I'm having trouble affording even with my new salary, because I'm trying to save for her future. And last month my landlord raised the rent. I'm managing, but it's tight." The admission clearly cost him. Rachel could see it, in the tension of his jaw, the way he wouldn't quite meet her eyes. "Thank you for trusting me with that," she said carefully. "Can I make some suggestions? Not as someone trying to repay a debt, but as your employer who wants valuable employees to succeed." "I'm listening." "First, the coursework. We have internal academic support for employees pursuing degrees. It's available to everyone in the Education Assistance Program. I'll connect you with the coordinator. Second, Jasmine's school supplies. Morrison Technologies has an employee-dependent education fund that provides resources for employees' children. It's been in place for 3 years. You're eligible, and you should use it. Third, the rent increase." Rachel paused. "We're expanding our employee housing assistance program as part of our benefits package. Low-interest loans for better housing, relocation assistance, that kind of thing. It launches next month, but I can get you early access." James studied her face. "These are actual employee benefits. Not things you're creating specifically for me. They're real programs." Here Rachel pulled out her tablet and showed him the benefits portal. "Look, there are currently 12 employees using the academic support program. 19 families receiving dependent education assistance. The housing program is new, but it's being rolled out to all employees." James scrolled through the information, his expression gradually softening. "Okay. I'll look into these. That's all I ask. And James, I'm going to give you the names and contact information for 3 other employees currently using these same benefits. Call them. Ask them about their experience. Verify that I'm not just making this up to help you specifically. You'd do that?" "Of course. Because I need you to trust that this is real." Over the next week, James did his homework. He spoke with the other employees, confirmed that the benefits were genuine and widely used, verified that nothing about his situation was being handled specially. Slowly, carefully, he began to accept the help. He enrolled in the academic support program, which connected him with tutors who made his coursework more manageable. He signed up for the Dependent Education Fund, and Jasmine's school received books and supplies. He started looking at apartments in safer neighborhoods, using the housing assistance to make the math work. But more importantly, something fundamental was shifting. James and Rachel were learning to communicate honestly, to acknowledge the complicated factors in their relationship while not letting those factors define them. They worked well together. James's practical experience combined with Rachel's strategic vision produced innovative results. The Riverside facility was exceeding all projections. Other executives started requesting James's input on their projects. "You're becoming indispensable," Rachel told him one day while reviewing his latest proposal. "I'm becoming what I always could have been." James corrected gently. "If I'd had the chance sooner." "You're right, and I'm sorry the system made it so hard for you to get that chance." "I'm not," James smiled slightly. "If it had come earlier, I might not have appreciated it. Might have thought I was owed it. This way, I know exactly how hard the road was. I won't take any of this for granted." Rachel found herself looking forward to their meetings, to James's thoughtful insights and occasional dry humor. She saw glimpses of the person he might have been if tragedy hadn't intervened, and she also saw the extraordinary strength those struggles had forged in him. One afternoon, Jasmine escaped from childcare and came bouncing into Rachel's office during a meeting. "Miss Rachel, guess what? Daddy says we're moving to a new apartment with a park and everything." Rachel smiled at the little girl's enthusiasm, then at James, who'd appeared in the doorway looking apologetic. "That's wonderful news, Jasmine. And I got new books for school. Lots of them. Daddy says it's because his company cares about families." Jasmine's face was radiant. "Is this your company, Miss Rachel? It is. Then thank you for caring about my daddy. He works really hard, and he deserves good things." Something in Rachel's chest cracked open. "He does. And you should be very proud of him." "I am." Jasmine hugged her father's legs fiercely. "He's the best daddy in the whole entire world." James lifted his daughter, his eyes meeting Rachel's over Jasmine's head. In that look, Rachel saw something new, not just acceptance, but genuine gratitude. Not because he felt obligated, but because he was beginning to believe this was real. After they left, Rachel sat alone in her office, watching them walk away through the glass walls. Father and daughter, laughing about something, Jasmine's hand trustingly in his. They were building something. Not perfect, still complicated by history and power dynamics, but real, honest, built on mutual respect and growing trust. And maybe, Rachel thought, that was enough. Maybe that was everything. Just when equilibrium seemed possible, the trouble started. It began subtly. Whispered conversations that stopped when James entered a room. Pointed looks from certain executives who resented his rapid advancement. Comments made just loudly enough to be heard, but quietly enough to deny. "Diversity hire." Someone muttered during a management meeting. "Wonder how he really got that promotion so fast." Another voice suggested with an ugly edge. James heard it all. He'd been hearing variations of it his entire life. The subtle and not so subtle implications that any success he achieved couldn't possibly be earned on merit. That his skin color made him either a token hire or a threat, never just a competent professional. He said nothing, just worked harder, produced better results, proved his worth through excellence. But Rachel saw the toll it was taking. "I need to address this," she told her mother one evening. "The racism in my own company. I've been so focused on profit and growth that I didn't see the culture I was allowing to fester." "Oh sweetheart. It was always there. You're just noticing now because someone you care about is being hurt by it." Rachel felt shame burn through her. Her mother was right. She'd built a company without examining the systems within it, without seeing how some employees had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. She scheduled a mandatory company-wide meeting for the following Monday. "I'm going to be very direct," Rachel began, her voice carrying across the packed auditorium. "It has come to my attention that certain employees have been making inappropriate comments about our Riverside facilities manager James Cooper. Comments suggesting his promotion was given rather than earned, implications that his race was the determining factor in his advancement." The room shifted uncomfortably. "Let me be absolutely clear. James Cooper was promoted based solely on merit. His qualifications, his performance, and his innovative contributions to this company are exceptional. He has exceeded every benchmark set for his position. Anyone suggesting otherwise is not only factually wrong but is engaging in behavior that violates our code of conduct and our values. Rachel's eyes swept the crowd, landing on the faces of known offenders. We will not tolerate racism in any form. If you cannot treat your colleagues with respect regardless of their race, you don't belong at Morrison Technologies. Period. The message was unambiguous. After the meeting, several employees were called into HR for counseling. 2 were terminated for refusing to acknowledge their behavior. James caught up with Rachel in the hallway afterward. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. That poison spreads if you don't cut it out directly and publicly. But now some people will think I can't fight my own battles, that I need the CEO to protect me." Rachel turned to face him fully. "James, I didn't do that specifically for you. I did it for every employee of color in this building who's been dealing with that garbage quietly because they were afraid to speak up. I did it because it's my company, and I refuse to let it become a place where talent is judged by melanin instead of merit." Her voice softened slightly. "But yes, I also did it for you. Because you deserve to work without that weight on your shoulders." James's expression softened. "Thank you. Even if it makes my life temporarily harder, thank you for saying it publicly." But Rachel's speech didn't end the problem. It escalated it. 2 weeks later, her HR director brought disturbing news. "There's been an official complaint filed against James Cooper from Dennis Kowalski in our main building's facilities department." Rachel's blood ran cold. "What kind of complaint?" "Falsification of maintenance records, unauthorized equipment purchases, improper contractor relationships." Kowalski's got 3 other facilities staff backing his allegations.
It's all lies. I know that, and you know that, but protocol requires an investigation, and protocol requires James be placed on administrative leave pending the outcome. No, Rachel stood. Absolutely not. Rachel, if you intervene directly, it plays right into the narrative his accusers are trying to create, that he's gotten special treatment all along. She wanted to scream. Her HR director was right. If she overrode protocol too blatantly, she'd make everything worse for James, not better. But leaving him suspended, vulnerable, potentially about to lose everything, that was unconscionable. "What do you recommend?" The HR director thought carefully. "Let the investigation proceed, but make sure it's thorough and fair. I'll personally oversee it. James has documented every single decision he's made. If he's as meticulous as I think he is, the truth will come out quickly." "How long?" "A week, maybe 10 days maximum. And in the meantime, James works from home on special projects, fully paid. Official assignments that keep him employed and productive but out of the direct line of fire while we sort this out." Rachel hated it, but she understood the reasoning. "Do it, but I want this investigation completed in 1 week, not 10 days. And I want a report on Kowalski and his associates too. This feels coordinated." When James was called to HR and informed about the suspension, Rachel insisted on being present. She saw the devastation wash across his face, the weary acceptance that maybe he'd been fooling himself all along. "James," she said after the HR director left, "this is temporary. The accusations are false and we will prove it. Will you?" His voice was hollow. "Or will you realize it's easier to just let me go? No more complications, no more questions about whether the CEO plays favorites. I don't play favorites. I recognize talent and defend it against racism masquerading as legitimate concerns. You can't fight every battle for me, Rachel. Eventually you'll get tired of it. Try me." She stepped closer, her voice fierce. "You are one of the best things that's happened to this company. Your ideas have saved us money, improved our environmental impact, and set new standards for the industry. Anyone who can't see that is blind, biased, or both. And I will not let blind, biased people determine who belongs in my organization." For a moment James just stared at her. Then quietly, "Why do you care so much? Is it really still about that night in the snowstorm?" "No." Rachel's voice softened. "It's about every day since. It's about watching you be brilliant and principled and dedicated despite every obstacle. It's about respecting someone who does the right thing even when it costs him. It's about wanting my company, my world, to be better. And you make it better just by being in it." Something in James's expression cracked. "I need this job, not just for me,
for Jasmine, if I lose it you won't. I promise you the truth will come out, and when it does there will be consequences for the people who tried to destroy you out of spite and prejudice. The investigation took 6 days. The HR director worked systematically, pulling records, interviewing witnesses, building an airtight case. What she found was damning for Kowalski and his co-conspirators. They'd fabricated everything. Doctored screenshots to make James's legitimate documentation look suspicious. Claimed purchases were unauthorized when James had clear approval for all of them. Recruited other employees to lie using threats of retaliation and promises of advancement. But they'd underestimated James's meticulous record-keeping. Every decision, every purchase, every contractor interaction had been documented thoroughly. When the HR director presented her findings, the case against James collapsed instantly. Rachel called James personally. "It's over. You're fully cleared." More than cleared, the investigation exposed systematic fraud in Kowalski's department going back 3 years. You actually helped uncover it by implementing proper oversight and documentation standards. So I'm not fired, not even close. You're being formally commended for your integrity and thorough professional practices, and Kowalski and his accomplices are being terminated immediately. We're also filing reports with relevant professional licensing boards and possibly pursuing criminal charges. James was silent for so long, Rachel thought they'd been disconnected. Then thank you for believing in me, for not giving up. I'll never give up on you, James. I hope you know that by now. When James returned to work the following Monday, the atmosphere had shifted noticeably. The investigation hadn't just exposed the plot against him but revealed the underlying culture that had allowed it to develop. Rachel implemented new oversight procedures, mandatory anti-bias training, and clear consequences for discriminatory behavior. James walked through the building with his head high, and people met his eyes with respect, not suspicion. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever would be in this world, but it was progress. And that night, as he tucked Jasmine into bed in their new apartment with its view of the park and its safe neighborhood, James allowed himself to believe something he'd almost forgotten, that good things could happen to good people. That sometimes with enough persistence and integrity, the world could be fair. That kindness given freely could return multiplied, not as debt but as grace. 6 months after the investigation cleared his name, James had become an integral part of Morrison Technology's leadership team. His sustainable building designs were being featured in industry publications. Major clients were specifically requesting his input on their projects. He'd completed his engineering degree, finally walking across the stage 12 years after he'd first started, with Jasmine cheering wildly from the audience and Rachel there too, beaming with pride. Life was better than James had ever imagined possible, but something still felt incomplete. He and Rachel had built a strong professional relationship based on mutual respect and honest communication. They worked together brilliantly, producing innovative solutions that benefited the entire company, but there remained a careful boundary between them, a professional distance that felt increasingly artificial. Until Eleanor decided to intervene, she invited them both to dinner at Rachel's townhouse under the pretense of celebrating James's graduation. When they arrived, James in his one good suit and Rachel coming directly from a board meeting, they found the dining table set for 3 with Eleanor nowhere in sight. "Mom," Rachel called out. A note on the table read, "Emergency with Sophie's school project. Dinner's in the oven, should be perfect by 6:30. You two enjoy and actually talk for once. Love, Mom." Rachel and James looked at each other, then at the obviously pre-planned meal, and simultaneously started laughing. "Your mother is not subtle," James observed. "Never has been." Rachel shook her head, smiling. "We can order something else if you'd rather not." "No." James surprised himself with the conviction in his voice. "Let's eat." She went to the trouble, and honestly I think we probably need to talk. They served themselves Eleanor's pot roast and roasted vegetables. The initial awkwardness faded quickly as they fell into their usual easy conversation. Work discussions led to personal stories, laughter over Jasmine's latest astronaut obsession, debate about books they'd both recently read. "Can I ask you something?" James said as they cleared the dishes together. "And I want a completely honest answer, always. Do you ever regret it? That night your mother and I met. It's complicated everything between us, made it impossible to have a normal professional relationship. Do you ever wish we'd just met some other way, without all this history?" Rachel considered the question seriously as she rinsed plates. No, I don't regret it, but I do wonder sometimes what we might have been to each other if we'd met differently, without the debt of gratitude hanging over everything, without the power imbalance, just as two people who happened to cross paths. Me too. James leaned against the counter watching her. Because I like you, Rachel, not as my boss, not as the person who recognized my potential, just as you. And I don't know what to do with that feeling given our situation. Rachel's hands stilled in the soapy water. I like you too, more than I probably should, more than is wise or appropriate given our professional relationship. Is there a version of this that could work, where I'm not your employee, where all the history doesn't make everything so complicated? I don't know. Rachel turned to face him, drying her hands slowly. But I'd like to find out. So would I. But I can't ask you to compromise your professional position for me. That's not fair to you or to the company. What if you didn't have to be my employee? Rachel's mind was racing with an idea that had been forming for weeks. What if you started your own consulting firm, took everything you've built, your expertise, your reputation, your designs, and became an independent consultant? Morrison Technologies would be your first and largest client, but not your only one. You'd have autonomy, your own business, and we'd interact as professional equals. James stared at her. Rachel, starting a company requires capital I don't have. I'd invest, not as charity or as repayment, but as a genuine business investment. Your sustainable designs are revolutionary. You could change the industry. And yes, it would resolve the complication of you being my employee. She stepped closer. But I'd only suggest it if it's actually what you want to do. Not to make our personal situation easier, but because it's the right career move for you. James was silent for a long moment, possibilities unfolding in his mind. His own firm, his own decisions, partnership with Rachel instead of dependence on her. I'd need to plan it carefully, make sure Jasmine's stability isn't compromised, build it the right way. Of course, take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is Morrison Technologies' business. James reached out tentatively and took her hand. It was the first time they'd touched outside of professional handshakes, and the contact sent electricity through both of them. If I do this, if I start my own company and we're on equal footing, can we try? Really try? Not just as colleagues but as something more. Rachel's eyes were bright. I'd like that very much. They stood there in her kitchen, hands clasped, the city lights glittering through the windows. For the first time, the complications seemed navigable rather than insurmountable. I should go, James said eventually. Jasmine's with a neighbor, and I don't want to be too late. Okay. Rachel walked him to the door, reluctant to break the connection. James, thank you for being patient with all of this, for giving us a chance. Thank you for seeing possibilities I couldn't see myself, for believing in me even when I struggled to believe in myself. At the door James paused, then taking a chance on something that felt right, he leaned in and kissed her cheek softly. Good night, Rachel. Good night, James. Over the next 4 months they built his business plan together. James would establish Cooper Sustainable Design, focusing on innovative, environmentally responsible building solutions. Morrison Technologies would serve as his anchor client, providing steady revenue while he developed other business. Rachel connected him with investors, helped navigate legal complexities, but made absolutely certain he maintained full ownership and control. This has to be yours, she insisted repeatedly. Not ours, not mine, completely yours. Your company, your decisions, your success. The day James signed the incorporation papers, Jasmine by his side as they officially launched Cooper Sustainable Design, he felt something fundamental shift inside him. This was his, built on his knowledge, his reputation, his work. No one could diminish it or take it away. He was no longer the maintenance worker who got lucky or the facilities manager people whispered about. He was James Cooper, CEO and founder. A businessman, an entrepreneur. And that evening when Rachel came to his apartment to celebrate, bringing champagne and genuine joy, Jasmine immediately decided to adopt her into their little family. Are you Daddy's girlfriend now? Jasmine asked with the blunt directness only a 7-year-old could manage. Rachel glanced at James, who gave a small nod of permission. I'd like to be, if that's all right with you. It's very all right. Jasmine threw her arms around Rachel enthusiastically. Does this mean you'll come to my school space fair next month?
and help me build my Mars rover project. I wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart." James watched them, his daughter and the woman he was falling in love with, and felt tears sting his eyes. After so many years of just surviving, of fighting for every scrap of stability and dignity, he was finally living, building something real, creating a future that felt limitless instead of constrained. And it had all started with a choice to help a stranger in a snowstorm, to give when he had almost nothing, to be kind when the world had given him every reason to be bitter and protective. That kindness had come back to him transformed, multiplied beyond anything he could have imagined or predicted, not as payment or transaction, as grace, as the mysterious mathematics of goodness that somehow always added up to more than the sum of its parts. 14 months after that snowy December night, the Chicago Business Foundation held its annual gala at the Palmer House. The ballroom glittered with Chicago's business elite, an ocean of evening gowns and tailored tuxedos, champagne flutes and carefully cultivated networks. Rachel stood at the podium in a midnight blue gown, looking out at the assembled crowd. Beside her, James wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking every inch the successful entrepreneur he'd become. Cooper Sustainable Design now had 12 employees and contracts with 7 major clients beyond Morrison Technologies. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Rachel began, her voice clear and steady. "I want to tell you a story about a snowstorm, $23, and a lesson in what true generosity actually means." The room quieted, attention focusing on her. Rachel told the story simply and honestly, her mother stranded and dismissed by everyone, James and Jasmine stopping when no one else would, the turkey dinner bought with money that was needed elsewhere, the train fare given from an empty wallet, the words that had stayed with Eleanor, "You don't have to pay me back, just help someone else someday." "That man is here tonight," Rachel continued, her hand finding James's naturally. "James Cooper, founder and CEO of Cooper Sustainable Design. He didn't help my mother because he knew who she was or what connection it might create. He helped because a stranger needed help, and he had the capacity to provide it, because kindness mattered more than self-preservation or personal comfort." James squeezed her hand, no longer uncomfortable with public recognition, having learned to accept gratitude with grace. James taught us something profound that night, that real generosity isn't about giving from your excess or your overflow. It's about giving when it costs you something real, when you have to choose between your own needs and someone else's, when kindness requires actual sacrifice. Rachel's voice grew stronger. "That lesson transformed not just my mother, not just me, but the entire culture of Morrison Technologies. We've rebuilt our company around the principle that we succeed by lifting others, not by stepping over them." Images appeared on the screens behind them. The Cooper Center for Engineering Excellence, a facility providing free technical education to underserved communities. The Morrison Foundation Scholarship Program, which had funded full college educations for 42 students in the past year. The Employee Advancement Initiative, which had promoted 37 hourly workers into professional positions. All of this grew from one act of kindness on one December night, from one man who chose to see a stranger's humanity rather than walking past someone in need. Rachel turned to James, her eyes bright with emotion. "You gave my mother $23 when you needed every cent. Tonight in your honor the Morrison Foundation is establishing the James Cooper Fund for Working Parents. $23 million dedicated to helping single parents complete their education, supporting children whose parents work multiple jobs, and ensuring that people like you, people with extraordinary talent and character, don't have to choose between their dreams and their children's welfare ever again." James's jaw dropped. He'd known Rachel was planning something significant, but this exceeded anything he'd imagined. "You've already changed so many lives," Rachel continued, her voice thick with feeling. "Now let's see how many more we can change together." The applause was thunderous, a standing ovation that went on for minutes, but James barely registered it. He was thinking about that night, the snow falling thick and fast, Jasmine's small hand in his, the decision to give the last money in his wallet to a stranger who needed it more. He'd never imagined that choice would lead here, to success, to love, to the ability to help others on a scale that seemed impossible. After the ceremony, James, Rachel and Eleanor stood on a balcony overlooking Michigan Avenue. Jasmine had fallen asleep on a plush chair inside, exhausted from the excitement. The three adults stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights shimmer. "Thank you," Eleanor said to James, "not for the first time and certainly not for the last, for stopping that night, for being the kind of man who helps strangers in snowstorms." "Thank you," James replied, "for seeing me, for recognizing that what I did mattered, for raising a daughter who understands that kindness deserves to be honored and multiplied." Eleanor smiled warmly. "She learned that from you, you know, watching how you treat your employees now that you're in a position of authority, seeing you remember where you came from. You've taught her as much as she's taught you." Rachel slipped her hand into James's. "We've taught each other. That's what real partnership is." They stood together as the first snowflakes of the new season began to fall, soft and steady. James thought about cycles and seasons, about how kindness given freely somehow came back transformed, about how one choice in one moment could ripple outward in ways you'd never predict or control. "Daddy," Jasmine had woken and stumbled onto the balcony, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Is it snowing?" "It is, baby girl. Like the night you helped Miss Eleanor." "Just like that night." Jasmine pressed between James and Rachel wrapped her arm around the little girl naturally. "That was a really good night, wasn't it, Daddy?" James looked at his daughter, at the woman he loved, at Eleanor beaming at all of them, at the life they'd built together. "The best night, sweetheart, the very best, because sometimes a snowstorm isn't just weather. Sometimes it's grace disguised as hardship. Sometimes the worst moments are actually doorways to the best things. And sometimes, $23 and a turkey dinner can change the entire world, not through grand gestures or strategic calculation, but through simple profound human kindness, through seeing someone else's need, and choosing to meet it even at cost to yourself, through remembering that we're all just people, all struggling, all deserving of dignity and compassion and grace." James had given freely in a snowstorm, expecting and asking for nothing. And he'd received everything: a career beyond his dreams, a family expanded by love, a purpose that extended far beyond mere survival, not as payment, because real kindness is never transactional, but as the natural abundance that flows when we choose love over fear, generosity over scarcity, connection over isolation. The snow fell soft and steady, blanketing the city in white. Inside the ballroom, people celebrated wealth and achievement. On the balcony, a small family held each other close and watched the snow fall, grateful for storms that bring strangers together, for choices that echo forward through time, for the mysterious mathematics of grace that turns $23 into 23 million and one kind act into a legacy of hope. This was the miracle, not that good things happen to good people as some kind of cosmic reward system, but that goodness itself multiplied when given away without calculation. That every act of kindness was a seed planted in soil you'd never see, growing into forests you'd never walk through, providing shade and shelter for people you'd never meet. James had planted a seed in a snowstorm. Now he stood in the forest it had grown, surrounded by abundance he'd never imagined, and understood finally what it meant to live fully and completely, to give freely without counting the cost, to love deeply without holding back, to recognize that we're all connected, all responsible for each other, all capable of being angels to strangers in their storms. The snow fell gently, and James smiled, because somewhere out there in the city, someone else was stopping in a storm. Someone else was choosing kindness over convenience. Someone else was planting seeds they'd never see grow, and the world, infinitely and impossibly and mysteriously, was becoming better for it. One snowstorm at a time, one kind act at a time, one choice at a time. This was the $23 miracle grown to fullness. This was grace made visible in the world. This was love in action, rippling outward in ever-widening circles. This was everything that mattered.